Okay, Kevin, let's talk about another question. So let's say I'm a new hire, a relatively newbie, then naturally I won't have a lot of stuff to do immediately, right? Maybe eventually I'll get more work and more deadlines. But let's say in the first few weeks, I'm still in the training program, still going through the onboarding, then probably I don't have a lot of things or my schedules are not fully occupied. So in that case, I still have a relatively long working hour in the office. So what can I do or what should I do when I don't have a lot of work to do? Meaning if I'm just idling, sitting in the desk, then I don't want to be looked at like doing nothing, right? Sitting there, or worse would be playing at my phone and browsing the web. So any advice on how to utilize this idling time more effectively?
Yeah, sure. Um, so let's be precise about it. So you're given some things to do. You've done them. And so this idling time we're talking about is within office hours. Okay. You're not staying behind for this, but it's, let's say between 9 to 6:30, there's, blocks of period whereby you are relatively not busy, half an hour here, so on and so forth. And then you just, you know, want to find something productive and constructive to do. Okay. And so to me, there are two big categories. So either it is something that would allow you to understand your work more deeply, or something that allows you to build better relationship with people. Because these two are the most important fundamental bedrock of good performance. Know your job well and have good relationship with people. So I would let these two things guide me in thinking what kind of things should I do, in the idling time. So for example, in the first category, knowing my job better, okay, well, I may have specific training sessions with this, that, and that guy, but they're all very specific to my role, day-to-day role, right? How much do I know about the various part of the business that fit together, okay, to complete the entire chain of what the company is about? Now, of course, you can't just go from A to Z and you just want to talk to everybody. I would say look at where you are and use that as a point of reference to expand the circle of relevance. Okay, so let's say you're in a project team. Well, what are your immediate projects about? And what are your immediate contexts within the projects? Okay. Now you might want to know more about individual people who comes in and to participate in this project, what they all do day to day. Okay. So you might want to just call up some of these people and ask for a 15-minute chat and just let them explain to you what do they do and how is what they do relevant to your work. Okay. Now, of course, the better way to be to schedule it in advance, because nobody likes to be surprised and say, hey, have you got time now? But to the best of your ability, if you know that you're going to have idle periods, that is in advance that you can actually schedule, then you would schedule it. But if an idle period happened and you weren't expecting it, then of course, that might not be something that you can actually achieve. In which case you say, okay, well, what else can I do? Well, look at the company's documents, basically, okay? Whichever role that you're in, you might have policy documents, which may be quite boring to read, but you have to understand that every single job has a certain governance about how to do the job and what the relevant influence that job has into the overall workflow. Okay. Now, is it necessary that you understand it as a rookie in the first few weeks? Well, no, but would it be useful to understand it for the longer term career for you to be in this company? Yes. So if you read them now, you may not make sense of everything right now. That is true, but you will at least make a start, right? So for example, there may be terminology that you didn't know. So you mark it down, at the right time, you ask people to explain to you what it means. And slowly but surely, you will get them to tell you and explain to them, and you will figure it out and make sense of it, right? And once you make sense of something, Francis, that's when everything becomes different. When things become meaningful to you, they're not just work. There's a meaning behind it. There's a reason for everything to exist, to happen, to be done. And once you figure out the meaning, motivation is easy to come by. It's far harder to motivate yourself to work when you don't understand why you're doing the work. Just like when you go study, right? Oh, why do I have to do mathematics? If the teacher don't give you a good reply, you're just going to reject. You're just going to say, I don't want to do it, right? I've got a calculator. Why do I need to learn mathematics, right? So that's one thing you can do. The other thing you can do is ask your team, is there anything that you can do for them? Okay, which is one of my favorite things to basically advise or suggest to a rookie when you have any spare time. And just say, hey, everybody, I just got an extra half an hour because one of the meeting was canceled. Is there anyone need me to help them with anything that I can help them with? Okay, just offer it out. You don't have to stand up with a microphone or anything. You just turn to people around you, left and right, and just that. Or you can offer to do a coffee run or a tea run. Okay. Now, all of these things sweetens up the relationship because it may sound funny in saying that, well, I'm not the tea boy, I'm not the lunch boy. Is it? Well, they're all part of building a relationship. When you're new, what else can you do? How else can you make yourself useful is my question. Okay. So to the extent to which you can, make yourself as useful as possible, including those things that may not sound like work, but is being useful. If everybody's busy at lunchtime and they're all just, going through meetings and everything, you say, hey, does anyone want lunch brought back? You guys all look busy. I'm just going to go down. I'll come right back. And I'll be having lunch here as well. So I'll take orders. And very often these are very welcomed and they'll be very appreciative. They're very grateful. And it sweetens up the relationship, right? And if you do that over time, they will pay dividends. So the other thing would be, I guess, if you find that in your own work so far, you are deficient at certain things, this might be the time that you spend a little bit more time on reviewing your own work and maybe just take the additional time to go through the details to try to get yourself into a better position next time you do the work by arranging and organizing your own workflow, right? Or to talk to someone who's very close to that and say, hey, I'm struggling with this a little bit. What more can I do to get better at this, right? Usually maybe people around you, okay? So those category of things I would say generally would be helpful and would fill up your time far better than reading the newspaper or surfing the internet, even though they may not necessarily catch you and say you shouldn't do that. It's just it's not the professional thing to do. You get paid to be in the office, right? So you should be doing something constructive and productive.
So what about now there's a more common work from home scheduling, right? So some companies, they offer hybrid work mode, right? So maybe a few days in the office, 1 or 2 days at home, remote work. So obviously we can't do a lot of things that you just mentioned while at home because we're not with the colleagues. So is there any advice on how to more effectively use work from home time?
That's a very good question, because that's where the world is going to, right? In my own experience, work from home has a very unique challenge, which is how do I keep discipline in the work from home situation at the same degree that I do as if I'm in the office? Okay, because it's just so much distractions at home. Go watch TV, surf the net, and eat something, go lie down for a nap. So it's very much a matter of attitude, in my opinion. And I think if I was the manager, someone who works from home, my question would be, how productive is this person who's working from home? The only thing that I can say that the person is productive is looking at the output. So how often do we tell the manager what our output is every day at the end of the day? Normally, we don't do it physically, if we're in the office. So I would say maybe make a special effort in recapping briefly at the end of the day what you have been working on and what progress you've been making, what challenges you're facing and how you currently dealing with it, right? So because you don't have the face time, you kind of have to spell it out, because otherwise I'm a little bit lost and I'm start to speculate, is this guy doing his work? What kind of work is he working on, right? So with work from home, I think is often you need to be more proactive in kind of announcing the things that you've been working on and how you've been spending your time. But to answer the original question, which is, if I have idle time at home, how would I use it? It is far more limited than if you have face-to-face. So I would then default back to, reviewing my own work. How do I get my work done more efficiently, more accurately, and just generally just more smoothly in terms of the whole workflow, okay? Because everyone is a part of a chain, and you're a part of the chain. And your job is to make sure that when a bit of information come to your link of the chain, it gets done very quickly so you can pass on to the next part of the chain, okay? So if you think like that and you keep yourself kind of sharp in terms of looking at your own work and see where things are falling down and getting stuck, you should be working on a solution proactively. And so spending time on those would never be wasted. It may not be seen by other people as a huge, kind of a extraordinary result, but everybody would notice that you always are a producer because everything comes to you that's smooth. They normally don't hear problems from you. You handle your workload well because you find out a way to do it efficiently. All of that just shows up in the end result. So it's worthwhile doing.
Yeah, and especially there's comparison, right? Like someone working from home that are productive and getting more productive through time versus someone kind of standing still or maybe not being productive at all. Then eventually I think managers and other colleagues will see the difference. Yeah.
And also, in if you're working from home, obviously you use chats a lot more often. So you can tell people what has been going on in the chat room. Obviously, keep everything professional, not just going there to say hello and it looks beautiful weather and things like that, but actually keep them engaged that you are actually working. I'm here, I'm active, I'm at my workstation doing stuff. I think that would also give out the right vibes to the team.
So earlier, I want to give the audience a little bit of a small tour, right? So you talk about writing down what you have done in the day. Maybe it can be a form of a daily updates. Let's say 1-page document. You just list out the things that you're working on and the things that you have done. And I also heard that there are quite a lot of companies, and especially tech companies, they have these standing meetings in the early mornings. It's around 10 to 15 minutes. Every team and the team head will kind of do the virtual and the online like Zoom meeting and to brief each other what was done in the yesterday and what is scheduled to do in that day. Yeah. And I think that could be a meaningful, but not taking a lot of time for each other to just follow up on the work progress and collaborate a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, some places do have that, but unfortunately, you as a rookie cannot drive that process. You can only participate if the boss, kind of set it up. But yeah, that's all. That's if run properly, meaning that if the boss sets a good example on how he looks at his week, then the rest of the team would follow. But if your boss is a little bit woolly and doesn't say much, then the team doesn't have the energy to take it seriously.
So any final thoughts on this question?
No, thank you.
Thanks,
Francis.
Kevin.